Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're looking at the third submission by Thomas of the horse Evento. Now, we first saw this horse a year or so back when they were just starting to bring this horse back, and it was quite irregular. They started out in the lunge line. This horse was quite dropped in the back and quite a bit irregular in its movement. So we've seen a lot of improvement here since that first video. If you notice in the walk here, the walk has become really nice and rhythmic. Much more so than it was before. I went back and looked at the last video of this horse myself and reviewed that again just to see the difference. And this horse has certainly come much better over his back, stretching more deeply. And the biggest thing I noticed is how much more regular the back end of this horse is. This horse, when we saw him in the last time, this one leg really more than the other just really didn't track up, and there was a real sense of it being irregular behind. But now this horse's walk has become much better, much more swinging and active. The horse is picking its legs up and putting them back down again pretty evenly, which it can only do if the horse is over its back. So this is really good work again by Thomas. They're bringing this horse. I mean, I would suspect a horse in the condition that this was in when we first began this process a year or so ago, and I first saw the video of this horse, that it would take at least a couple of years to bring a horse like this all the way back up. You've got to remember, if a horse has been broken over in the neck, or if it's really sway backed or really dropped in the back, it doesn't have to be sway back, but you get what I'm saying here, that it's just considerably dropped, and you see a big hole behind the saddle there, which we saw in this horse, which we still see a little bit, but nothing compared to what we saw before. And once again, the thing I'm really happy with here is how even the steps are. The horse does a nice rhythmic step, and I don't get that feeling like one is worse than the other. And a lot of those kind of things are things that you could actually call bridle lamenesses. That is, the horse isn't really lame, but it just looks irregular because it isn't just carrying itself over its back enough. So always remember that just the fact of getting a horse over its back takes care of a lot of problems with horses and a lot of irregularities and what we call bridle lamenesses, which are irregularities caused by the horse being out of balance when ridden, and especially ridden in a bad frame. So this is hugely improved over what I had seen before. Really good swinging walk here. Once again, Thomas is just doing a great job with this horse. Once again, look how regular the step is behind now. We can see the horse flexing and actually picking up the leg, where in the previous video, as I said, it was quite irregular behind. So this is all really good. I'd like to see the stretched neck down a little bit deeper than it is here, just to get the horse to stretch a little more from the base of the neck. But that even comes here as we go on. So Thomas is doing a great job on this. Really good step there in the walk. Really nice and rhythmic. You see what I mean there as he changes directions. Get the horse actually flexing its hocks there in the walk and actually lifting its legs up and setting them down. So if you go back and look at the original video of this way back, you'll see how really irregular the horse was before this. So this is really good. Now once in a while here I get a little sense, you see the neck is a little bit short, and that's what causes the horse to be a little lateral in its walk. The horse needs to get its neck out longer, as you see there. Then the walk starts swinging and becomes more 4-beat. So when it comes up a little bit, it tends to look like it's starting to 2-beat walk a little bit. That is camel walk. That is, both the legs on the same side move a little bit at the same time. It's even there, we see that a little bit. So the way we correct that is getting the horse deeper into the stretch as we go. And that will take care of that. There we go. And as the horse gets longer and deeper into the stretch, we see how much better it starts looking. So that's what we always have to keep in mind, that the frame must never be gained at the expense of the movement. If we have the horse in a pretty frame with its head way up in the air, as what people think is a pretty frame, and the horse stops moving, well, that frame is absolutely worthless because we're making things that move. We're not making statues that stand still. So to have a head and neck position that destroys the movement isn't very valuable. So good leg yield here, nice deep stretch there, nice stepping over. All the way down in that stretch again. And once again, notice as the horse stretches down, how much better the walk becomes and how much more regular it even becomes, more than that. So we see this horse's belly is still a little bit dropped. There's still a little bit of a hole behind the saddle, but compared to how this horse looked a year ago or so, this is much, much improved. Good bending there into that leg yield again. And notice how each time we come back after that, how much better the walk starts to be. Stretch starts to become a little deeper, and the step starts to stretch and reach forward a little more. So remember that we're always looking for the slowest gait with the longest step as our sort of optimal, if you will, position of each particular day. And of course that changes with each horse as they develop. Another good leg yield there, good in the rhythm. Like to see this horse a little more stretched in the neck when we're doing that, but it's great that you get the good stretch when you come to the end of it. So that's the good result that we want. Once again, look how much more regular the step is behind. This horse can really step now. 2, 1, 2. Really quite nice, and has lost that feeling of just being a little stuck. Really nice there. I like how that became even more active as we did that leg yield. So I think you're still working this horse at pretty much the appropriate position for him. We still have a ways to go with this one before his back's going to be all the way up. But you'll know that because you'll ask the horse to come up one day and it simply will be easy and the horse won't have to change the rhythm as you do. Really good all the way back down there in the stretch again. Now this horse wants to curl back a little bit as you see there, so this is where we want to really release the reins even more. I was reminded today as I'm giving a clinic in Ithaca, New York at the moment, where I am, and trying to get this video done to get it back to Thomas, but it was just interesting today how many riders come to clinics and they're, you know, it seems almost like they don't even sell reins anymore that are long enough with the bridles that they sell. So we usually have to go out and change them out, or a good thing to do is to take a flash noseband off of a bridle like you see here and just put it between the reins, so you add a foot or so to the length of the reins. Really good walk there. Now you see the pole starts to curl back a little bit, and what you have to do there is just what you did, is just release the contact and increase the activity of the walk, which you're doing a really good job of. And once again, while this horse doesn't look like it's all the way there yet, and we still have a few problems, but compared to what it did look like, this is a big improvement. And as you're going here, I can already see the horse beginning to draw the abdominal wall up, which is what we want to see. Always remember, not just must the back come up, the horse, in order to do that, must lift up through his abdominal muscles. So see how the horse's waistline starts looking a little trimmer here. So you'll know, for instance, like when a horse is actually fit enough to do upper level movement, they won't kind of, when they come out, they'll look and they'll stand much more like an athlete. That is, even in the cross ties, they'll kind of light up and they won't have the saggy belly, will have all gone away and that sort of thing. So just standing there. Now what's happening here is as this horse warms up, that starts to happen. The back starts to come up, and that's at the phase at which this horse is going. But just know that as the horse advances and it gets more fluent in all these movements and gets stronger over its back, you'll see a difference in the horse just actually standing in the cross ties. Even to the point that they'll start standing more squarely on their feet in the cross ties, because they're more comfortable over the back and therefore more comfortable on all 4 feet. Always remembering that's the goal of what we do here in dressage, is get the horse to work over its back so that we can combine the action of the back with the action of the front in such a way that it's meaningful and the movement can become rhythmic. And remember, when we're talking about horse being in rhythmic, once again, we're talking about the rhythm between the 2 ends of the horse, not the speed at which the horse goes around the arena. This is a big misconception that a lot of people just do not understand. So if the horse is going consistently at a speed around the arena, yet you look at the legs and they look sort of cattywampus, if you will, like like the wheels are going to come off. So that's a horse that's not working over its back. When you see a horse working over its back, we see how the 2 ends are in rhythm. That is, the one won't be behind the movement of the others. And that holds true through all of the levels. There's not any level at all which we'd ever want to disconnect the horse. So when you see a horse that's supposed to be going Grand Prix, and they do these extended trots where the leg comes almost straight out from the shoulder like a Spanish trot, but yet the back end is behind it someplace, that's a horse that's not doing dressage. And that kind of movement is what destroys horses' gaits and their whole bodies, because they're not working over their back. That means all the concussion of the movement is taking into the hard tissue there of the joints instead of being absorbed into the muscles and the soft tissues. So good start off here in the trot. Much more regular than I've seen this horse in the past, so this is all improving over the last time I see the horse, have seen the horse. Now it looks like Thomas rides in an outdoor arena most of the time, so he may have not had a may have had some downtime during the winter. I'm not sure over there, but I hear that from a lot of people on the East Coast here, actually where I am now. And a lot of those horses, they had a bad winter. A lot of them aren't able to go out. So once again, we have to go back and start all over again, so to speak. But it comes much faster. So if a horse has been off for a month, you know that it's lost most muscle tone. Horses start to lose, and people start to lose muscle tone in 2 weeks. So that's why it's so important for older people to stay active, because as soon as you sit in your chair for 2 weeks, you start losing muscle tone, and a couple of months of that, if you're 60 years old, and pretty soon, you're a lot older than you thought you were. So keeping yourself in good physical condition and keeping horses in good physical condition, working over their backs and not overworking, is the key to the longevity. Good trot here. Now I like how the trot has also slowed down since I last saw this horse. It looks like it's taking a much longer, deeper step now, right there. Now that starts to look really nice when the horse starts to float over its back a little bit. Really good work here and getting nice and long enough. Now once again, even as it goes down, it starts to curl back just a little bit. But each time I see the horse do that, I see Thomas right away releasing a little more and getting the horse longer out through the neck. And that's exactly what you want to do. As soon as your horse is behind the bridle a little bit, you have to release the reins and just send the horse forward, send it on. Remember, when we say forward, that means to engage forward under the body. It does not mean to run forward fast. Getting a good stretch here. And once again, this footing here is a little irregular that you're working in, and that's quite okay. It's an outdoor arena that probably has some soft spots and some hard spots. But because the horse is working over its back, it generally has no problem. That's really nice there. Now this is a much slower, deeper trot than we saw in the last. Got the horse stretching nicely in the last tape, but nowhere nearly as slow and deep as I'm seeing here. So that's really great. So just know when you are able to bring the horse's head and neck up and it doesn't curl up, that's when it's ready to come up. So if you try to bring the pole up and it either adversely affects the trot or the horse just curls over and pins his chin to his chest, that tells you the horse is not strong enough yet in that position to be able to bring the head and neck that high and maintain the position of the back. Really good swinging trot like right here. This is really good. Very nice working trot for that horse over its back. A little abrupt in that downwards transition, but not bad. And right back to the stretch again. So that was really good and by far the best work I've seen with this horse in the trot. Taking a look at the belly there again, we can see the horse in silhouette, which is always what you want to do. Look behind the saddle there. Now there's still a little bit dip behind the saddle, but nowhere near what it was when we first saw this horse going. Same thing with the belly, why this horse's belly is still hanging a little lower than I'd like it to hang, but even now it's already brought that abdominal wall up, which tells me it's bringing its back up. So you're certainly on the right track here, and if you keep doing what you're doing, this horse will just keep developing beautifully. It's reminding everyone that, when you see these trainers come out and try to make these horses into something brilliant in a day, you just can never really do that. So the only big improvement you can make in any horse in a day is to get them to stretch. And once you get that, everything comes quite slowly, but it comes very rhythmically, so to speak, and then it keeps working, it keeps improving. The horse keeps improving day by day. And our goal in training is, once again, always just to get the horse over its back and keep it there. We don't want to spend a lot of time working a horse in a hollow frame because that's going to wear out the legs, just like we don't drive our cars with the emergency brakes on, because pretty soon the engine will burn up and the brakes will burn up and you'll have a car that you can't control. A little rough getting into that start, but once it does, it's quite good. And you can see how he curls a little bit there. And the idea right at that point is just what Thomas did there. See how he released the rein a little bit and added a little bit of leg and got the horse to track a little deeper. So the top line is looking so much better on this horse than what we saw in the past. This is really good work. Now, of course, he is working in an outdoor arena, and see how the horse just stumbled there a little bit. Looks like he just caught a bad spot in the footing there, and that can happen. But that's the point of having a horse working over its back. When horses work over their back, they can step in a little hole or have a little stumble, and they just regain their composure. Whereas a horse that's hollow steps in a hole, and it just goes down with you. So it's a bit like having a four-wheel drive, so to speak. Now, right here, you see how he wants to curl back. Now, Thomas just releases the rein. That's exactly what you want to do. But this trot, the length of this stride and the rhythm of it is much improved over the last time I saw this horse. The length of the stride is just incredibly increased over the last time I saw it, and it's slower and deeper. Remember, that's always what we're looking for. The longest stride in the slowest rhythm. Now, once in a while, Thomas, this is the first time I've seen you do this, you're getting a little forward once in a while with this horse, and I don't know if the balance has changed in that saddle, but it looks like your legs are swinging back and you're a little bit on your toes today with this. So it may be that your saddle's balance has changed a little bit since before. So I'd like you to just straighten up and be a little straighter and keep that weight sinking into your heels. So when you find you're getting up on your toes, it can mean a couple of different things. One, that your stirrups are not the right length, or they're hanging in the wrong position from the stirrup because the saddle itself has changed positions on the horse's back. And that is, if the front of the horse lowers, the front of the saddle lowers, it's going to want to pitch you forward a little bit. So that's the first time I've seen you kind of do that a little bit, so it makes me wonder about the balance of that saddle, if perhaps it has gotten too low in front for you and is tending to make you want to lean forward a little bit too much and putting your leg a little too far behind you. Though when you come back to the walk here, of course, that's fine. But even there, we see how your heel is a little bit up. I'd like to see you lift your toe up a little more and keep that heel down. So it's perfectly fine to use your heels, but we want to stretch back into that contact with the leg each time we do. That is, lift your toe back up and try to lengthen the leg back down. So we don't want the leg to keep getting shorter and shorter and higher up on the side of the horse. That is, as we start working too much off of our heels. So you might want to just check that balance of that saddle and just be sure that that's all still working really well. But this has been a really good workout with this horse. It's much improved over what I saw before. The horse is much more quickly getting into the stretch. And we can see that the horse still has that little problem wanting to curl back a little bit, but the trot frame and the development of the horse is just much improved over what I last saw. Now right here, I'd like to see you send the horse on just a little bit. Sometimes it looks a little like it gets a little too slow there. But you do. Pretty soon you get him moving again, so you're correcting yourself, and that's the important thing to understand. Then you can work on your own. But you see right here again, I feel like your shoulders are a little bit forward, and see how your leg is swinging back a little bit? So that tells me you're tending to pinch with your knees a little bit, and I haven't seen that from you before. So I would check the balance of that saddle and be sure that you can get your shoulders back a little bit. Now, you will notice if you read any of the German books on doing the stretching work, they talk about releasing the back by leaning forward. Now, you can do that in a short stirrup, but you can't do that in a long stirrup, because if you do that in a dressage length stirrup, you'll simply fall forward and it will push the weight too much onto the horse's neck, so to speak. So we wouldn't want to do that unless we have a short stirrup where we can balance through our back, much as in a two-point position. So same thing here. I just feel like you're a little bit too round-shouldered forward, and I want you to stretch up. Those legs are sometimes getting too far back. But other than that, it's really a good workout. But I think getting you back a little bit, and I haven't seen you ride so forward like this before. You usually have your back in a good position. So check the balance of that saddle or the stirrup length and be sure that's good. But everything else was good, much improved. Once again, a couple little trips, no big deal, but I'm seeing really good development. This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Keep up the good work, and I'll see you soon.